Hello. First of all, thank you for having me and for making it possible in this digital format, as it was not possible for me to travel and we're all in lockdown. I wanted to say I was not really able to follow your introduction now because it was like Ukrainian and English at the same time. But I think, I'm just trying to start. I'm gonna share my screen with you in a second. I have prepared a presentation, and maybe as Natasha might have said, or you might have read, my background is in performance and language. So I tried to make a format that's kind of in between an artist lecture and also a performative lecture. A lot of text, there will be a lot of slides with text, and I think it's important just to get the overall idea. So I think it's not so important to understand every little detail that's in the texts. So also not everything will be translated. I'm gonna share my screen with you now. I hope this is working. So the way I prepared my lecture for today was to kind of build a score for the body, and it's a musical and a dance score. The first step we're gonna take is to rewind. So what I'm doing is I'm going back to a couple of very old pieces I have selected, because I think they do make sense with the situation we are facing now with this corona crisis, and they can be looked at in this like new light from several perspectives. So the first piece you see is called Oh You Live. It's not actually really a piece, it's rather a draft for a piece I've never made so far, from 2009. And it's a found object. It's Valentine's Day's candles that used to say, I love you. And what I did is I changed the order of the letters to form a new sentence. And the new sentence is, oh, you live. And I think that's a good starting point for this artist talk in the current situation, because we are all here, we are all alive, and that's a good thing, I know. The next piece I'm going to show you is called 37 degrees Celsius. And what you can see here is an installation I did in 28. And it's in the front, you can see a laboratory device that's keeping liquids at an exact temperature. And in the background, you see a French sentence. That's a quote by Gilles Deleuze, which says, if you translate it, the unique number which cannot be another. And what I'm doing with this device is I'm keeping water at 37 degrees, which is body temperature. And it's basically about that this very specific number, like 37 degrees. It's not like 30 degrees plus 7 degrees or 47 minus 10. It's very, very specific, because that's the degree of Celsius that keeps us alive. If we go up in the temperature, we have fever. And if we go down, that's also threatening. So what I was trying to do is to have this laboratory device keeping the liquid at this very specific temperature that keeps us alive. The next piece you see here is a text installation. It's a silver text foil, like you can see it in exhibitions on the walls, where like the exhibition, the artworks is explained, and I decided not to take black letters, but silver letters that are reflecting the light. And it's referring on the reflection of the light on water. And what's important with this piece is the audience needs to move in space to be able to read the entire text, because it's from some perspectives you can't read it because it's reflecting too much. And the text is in German, and it's about the movement of a ship at sea, moving between different spaces, but also having the horizon as a vanishing point and trying to reach the horizon. But that's something that's actually not possible, because the horizon is this vanishing point, and whenever you try to reach it, it goes further away. So this is just not possible. And it's also, the text is also about the ship not moving between spaces, but also taking this move down of sinking to the ground of the sea and emerging again from this ground of the sea, where it's like where you're actually drowning, and it emerges again on the horizon as this also kind of it appears again. So like it has this really deadly point, but then it appears again and it comes to life again. The next piece I'm going to show you is a collage I did on crying. In 29, I did a couple of works on crying. And what I found interesting with this process of crying is that it reveals that the body is not a closed physical body, but it's like a membrane. It's porous, so things can enter the body and things can exit the body. So the body is very vulnerable, but at the same time, that's what makes us human, and that's what keeps us alive. So, and with crying, the body expands in space. So the body actually dissolves, but also gets bigger and expands in space. And that's what I found interesting about this process of crying, that you actually, that your territory gets bigger by crying. And the last piece I wanted to show from the old work is a piece called Holding Out for a Hero. It was a live performance in 29. And I was reenacting in a cut-up arrangement the choreography of Bonnie Tyler according to her song Holding Out for a Hero. So I was lip-syncing the song of Bonnie Tyler, but at the same time I was reenacting her gestures. So I was appropriating the heroic gestures instead of like what the song says, I'm holding out for a hero. I was trying to be the hero myself. And then you can see on the two last images that I also edited the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland as the hero. Because he's trying to come on his horse and save me. But as you can see, the King of Hearts is kind of how to call it? It's, he's not very heroic in the end. So he's trying really hard, but he's not really good at being a hero. And as you can also see in the last image, I don't wait for him, but I leave and take my own decisions. And I think that's also a message I wanted to get across, that we have to take actions ourselves instead of waiting for someone to save us. Now I'm going to make a move fast forward into the now. What I've been working on the last couple of days in lockdown was a number of images called Corona Feminism. And the first image kind of just started out as a joke. I wasn't able to sleep at night and kept thinking about what this all means. And then I had this idea of, well, my boobs are really flat. And that was always problem when I was younger. And maybe some of us know that, when you're in puberty, it doesn't really feel comfortable, and you have this idea of like what's a sexy body and what's not a sexy body. So I really, believed that my body is not very sexy when I was 14 years old. But now with this Corona crisis, flat has become very, very achievable and very sexy. So I've just asked myself, is flat the new sexy? And then you can also see the nipple going up in the curve. And I'm asking this question, what happened maybe like 2 weeks before? Because then the curve increases, but it goes down again. And it was just meant to be a funny joke. But then I kept working on it and developed a number of very small, very simple images that compare Corona statistics to statistics about equality and female equality. And on the one hand, it's fun, but on the other hand, it also shows how bad the situation is, and that feminism is not something that has been achieved or something that's not important at the moment. I think it's more important than ever. And these images really show, they make it very visual, what's going on with like feminist data. And the plan I'm having for this project is to develop a website with an online cloud where you can research, where you have hashtags, and where you also have little texts that inform you, but that also link back to the references, and you get a lot of statistics, research statistics. And maybe just to translate some of them, like the first image in the second row is about COVID-19 vaccine. So we can't wait. It's like a year sounds so long. But if you look at the numbers to close the gender pay gap, it will actually take us, if we go on like this, it will take us 108 years. And what you see in the image is the 108 years in this kind of path compared to the 1 year. And that's really, really long. But also, if you go up to the first image, I'm basically referring to what's kind of like what's explained to us all over the world, I think. But also, I had a look into Austrian school books, and when they do the sex education, and you have these images of the human body, the clitoris is always just this little bump, and they also don't say that, it has, a lot of nerves and we can feel a lot. And it's, it's the female sexual organ that's just, its only purpose is to make us feel good and get aroused. And that is not communicated. So I was comparing it to COVID-19 infection numbers, because we're so aware that we have to know the exact numbers, and we can't have people having the disease without us knowing, because it's dangerous. But if you look at the clitoris, it's such a big organ, and only the small part is translated. So there we can see the problem. If you compare it to this COVID-19 situation, you can really see the problem. We need to communicate the whole figure and not just a tiny little part of the figure. And on the top right, maybe that's another one I'm going to explain. So I was talking about this image with COVID-19 herd immunity rate, where I said it's like we all have decided that it's an unacceptable number, that 65% of the population will be infected with COVID-19. But it's actually also the number of, it's also the orgasm rate of straight women. So this means that when you do statistic interviews and ask people if they have had an orgasm during the last time they had sex, 95% of men say they did, but only 65% of women did. So it's a difference of 30%. And yeah, I think it's an unacceptable number. And that's what I've been trying with this project to show that so many numbers we are very cautious about at the moment in concern of COVID-19 are very similar to some numbers from statistics about equal rights. And we don't find it unacceptable and dramatic in that context. So I really want to raise awareness. That's one project I've been working on concerning Corona. And now I'm gonna go to another project. Well, that's one image. I'm just trying to play around with this situation of that we are told that we should not touch our face. So what I was trying to do here was just to make a quick draft where I'm touching my face. And you can also see I have lipstick on my fingers, and there is also a finger in my mouth. So that was kind of a way to try if touching my face can be a rebellious act and also an act of freedom and of joy, and give me some agency against the virus to kind of be at home, wash my hands, have clean hands, and then touch my face excessively to kind of say, fuck you, coronavirus. And it's also a moment of pleasure because I've been thinking about safe sex a lot during the last weeks, which is really difficult or actually not possible. So this gesture of touching my face and touching my mouth is also a way of reacting to the situation where I'm thinking about safe sex. And now I'm switching to the second Corona project I started. And what you can see here is a screenshot of my mobile phone from Instagram. And that's a performance piece I'm going to do on Instagram, which is a text cloud in 3 stages. It's not online now. That's just the draft you're seeing. It's going to go online the next couple of days. So that's kind of a sneak preview. And it's a text cloud that will be published like for a couple of weeks or even a couple of months, where I'm publishing 1 or 2 images a day or maybe every couple of days. And the script for it is 3 stages. The first stage is a breakdown. The second stage is a stage of digital communication. And the last stage is very physical. It's a dance, and it's a lot of like physical interaction and dancing. And this timeline refers to, I don't know if some of you might have followed Thomas Peyo, who's gone really viral the last couple of weeks with his text, The Hammer and the Dance. I started following him maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago, and he gave me a lot of hope. So I'm adapting my timeline to what he basically describes as a strategy to get out of the Corona situation. But, and here you can see a number of images, and the last 2 images, you can also see that it's going into another direction. At the moment, it's just text, and it's this bitmap text, but then it gets more and more physical, and the body will enter the images. And at some point, the body will take over. Now I'm going backwards to explain from where this piece actually came. So this Instagram performance was not made up by me just now during this Corona situation, but it's actually been a piece I've been planning on for a very long time. I did a live performance with 5 performers in 2018. And it was basically about 5 people, digital natives, chat setters from the cultural sector, that are meeting up for a photo shoot, and the timeline was different. So I changed the timeline for the Instagram piece. The timeline was the same elements, but it was different. It started out with the distance and being on the mobile devices, and then having the dance, and then having the breakdown as the system doesn't work anymore. So what I've been doing is just rearranging the original timeline from this live performance piece. And something that's also going to enter the Instagram performance that you can't see yet is that there was always a part in this live performance piece that I have not developed yet, but it was always the idea to have hoodies that are sensitive to temperature, so they would change color when you start sweating or when you touch each other. So you can really see the warmth of the body, and also you can see the touching on the piece of cloth. And it becomes very, very physical. And that's something I've been interested in already 2 years ago, but that gets even more interesting for me now with this current situation, to make this touching visible. And now I'm still taking a step back in this project and go back to 2012, where it actually started. So the live performance and the Instagram performance you have seen really, really goes back to 2012, when I was doing a travel to New York and to London, and I decided to collect receipts from when I was shopping and cut up the receipts and develop a poem out of every receipt. And the project was called When We Didn't Meet. So it's basically small little texts that are very much about the situation where you really want to meet someone, but for some reason it's not happening. And what I was doing was I just took the receipt, I cut the words up, and I rearranged the words. And the first outcome in 2012 was these small receipts I started to printing on an original receipt printer. So I brought them back into the original form, just with a new arrangement of texts. And sometimes it's long texts and sometimes it's shorter texts. It really depends on what was on the material, on the receipts in the original bill. And for example, here it says your second call, 12:46 again, you, and you also always have the date. And here is another photo I took from several pieces I tried, where I tried to print these poems. But then couple of years later, I decided to blow them up, to make them really, really big. So what you can see now is 2 Tyvek prints that are, the width is 1.5 meters and the length is 4 meters. So I did this really, really big blow-ups of the tiny little receipts and bring it into space again as a more physical body than the original tiny receipts I had. And here is another version where I have the small receipts, the poems on the small papers on the wall next to each other. And that's an exhibition shot from 2018, where I'm also cutting up this When We Didn't Meet project with another project I'm going to talk about in an instant. So here you can see the arrangement of the texts, but also texts on the wall and also photographs that refer to some part of the text. And here is another shot of the exhibition. And now I'm going to another project I've been working on 2 years ago. And here I'm calling the move take a break, with the double meaning of break, of like taking a step back, but also the idea of breaking something. Because this piece is a lot about breaking something. It's on motherhood, and on what society expects from women as mothers. So I was really interested in this idea of being a bad mother or not coping in a good way with being a mother. So I'm really in these images, I'm disconnecting with the baby, and also the moment of care switches into a moment of abuse. I'm treating the baby like a Gucci handbag in some images. It's like a prop. I'm not holding it right, and I'm very much objectifying the baby, but I'm also very disconnected to it. And what's also been an important decision, if you take a closer look at the images, maybe I'm going to go back to the other one where you see it in big. No. When you take a closer look, I hope you can see my mouse. Here you can see it's actually not a real baby, but it's a very well done lifelike a baby doll. And when you look closer, you can see it, and then it also gets disturbing on another level. And for my research, I looked into a community of moms. It's a lot of women who are not able to have babies or who had a baby that died. And they really built these communities on Facebook, and they adopt these dolls and go out shopping with the dolls and treat them like real babies. And also have these conversations, like they give them a real name. And some of the babies are also crafted after a picture of a dead baby someone has lost. So I found this very, very spooky and also very interesting, because we have a very specific idea of mothers being so happy, so overwhelmed happy with their baby, and just be caring and giving, but that's actually not true, because also a lot of women suffer depression after they gave birth. And there's also statistics that say that a lot of women are actually unhappy and they regret having a baby. So that's what I wanted to address in this project. And that's another part of the project, of the motherhood series. It's called Exhausted But Happy. And that's a pic I took when the baby doll arrived. And I just pretended to be in hospital, just having given birth to the baby. And I put it on Facebook. And it was really interesting, because I thought a lot of people would know that I'm doing this photo shoot, and I ordered this baby doll. But what happened was that I had a lot of congratulations, and people were really happy for me to be a mom, like people I have never met in real life. I'm just friends with them on Facebook. Some people who I haven't seen for many, many years, but also people I had seen like a couple of days before I posted the image, like me at 2:00 in the morning drinking and smoking in a bar. And no one really doubted that it was a fake baby. Everyone just thought they had not realized that I was pregnant. And also a lot of people knew that I was single at that time. So they were wondering where their father came from. And also some people were really shocked that, I'm still smoking and I'm still drinking while being a mother. So it was a very controversial project. And what you can see here is now that the German text messages some people sent me, I just put them in the image because I found it interesting to combine the image with this Facebook text messages. And now, from taking a break, I'm going to show the last image with the caption of taking the lead. And that's going to be a quite hard jump into some more activist work I usually don't really do at that extent. But what you can see here is just a photo I shot with my mobile phone at home, and I posted it on social media saying "No Loop Feminism fucks back" with this female sign I just painted on my hand, and with this fist that we all know from like as a revolutionary gesture. But the fist you have in this revolutionary, in these riot images, you always have the thumb outside of the fist, because that's necessary. If you know, it's this like symbol of rage and also of violence in some way. So you have to have the thumb outside the hand, because if you hit someone and the thumb is inside your hand, your thumb will break. So you always have to have the thumb outside, but I have the thumb inside. And it's this gesture of fisting. And you have to have the thumb inside when you're fisting someone, because otherwise you will hurt the person with your fingernails. And I have a lot of ketchup on my hand. And it's basically a reaction to a song that some guys played when I was swimming, and they played the music really loud. And the song was basically saying, being really pushy and fucking this girl at the party in her butt and not asking if she likes it or not. So it was a really violent, almost rape song. So I tried to turn it around and say, feminism fucks back, beware of your ass boys. And they might say, stop, don't do it. And that's also where I'm gonna stop my presentation, and where I'm gonna stop the screen share, and we're gonna do the Q&A now. So I hope you can see me again now.